Good morning, Bimblers. Did you know that it's International Beatles Week, ending this Wednesday, which is when our Bimble's coming out? And did you know that the Beatles were from Liverpool? What you did? They never mention it, do they? I thought it would be remiss of me if I didn't do a Beatles Bimble, to celebrate International Beatles Week. So I thought that our first location should be 25 Upton Green, the childhood home of George Harrison, at least from him being 7 upwards. This is where he would have perfected his quiff and listened to records and learnt his first chords on the guitar. Apparently, they used to have rehearsals of the Quarrymen in there. Speaking of the Quarrymen, let's Bimble.
Sun itself, to me you were a warming hand that melts to the bone, the flowers grown from my heart. To you I was a drifting line, drawn between a light to capture, but only shown in pictures sewn from my arms. Clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown, consumed, and I'll never let it go. You'll find in time, I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. Mistake. To me it was a golden handshake to reapply those lazy arms in my heart. To you it was a dream it mended. To you it was a dream suspended to relocate right from the break to the start. Clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown, consumed, and I'll never let it go. You'll find in time, I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. Over time, clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown, consumed, and I'll never let it go. You'll find in time, I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind, my mind.
And so we reached St Peter's Church here in Walton, and on the 6th of July 1957. That was a Saturday. They had the Walton Village Fete here, in a field that's now a graveyard and part of a school. On the bill of that fete was a little skiffle group called the Quarrymen, and they were called the Quarrymen because that was the main industry around here in Walton. It was all sandstone quarries. My specialist subject, isn't it, Bimblers? Sandstone and the Mersey Valley. I'm always going on about it. The sandstone in Walton was thought to be very high quality. It was actually used for the base of Speke Hall. They built the hall on top of some Walton sandstone. In 1903, Walton sandstone was picked to be the fascia of the Anglican Cathedral. All the posh bits, you know, the bits that look nice on the outside. The Anglican Cathedral being designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott. I go on about him a lot as well, don't I? He designed Battersea Power Station and red telephone boxes. Obviously St Peter's Church here in Walton was made out of Walton sandstone, and it was completed in 1887. It was designed by a couple of chaps called Grayson and Ould. That would be a George Enoch Grayson and an Edward Ould. Edward Ould was taught by John Douglas, my favourite church architect, and John Douglas was taught by Edward Graham Paley. I'm always on about him as well, aren't I, Bimblers? On Saturday the 6th of July 1957, the Quarrymen were as follows: Eric Griffiths on guitar, Colin Hanton on drums, Rod Davis on banjo, Pete Shotton on washboard, Len Garry on tea-chest bass, and John Lennon on lead vocals and guitar. The Fab Six. It was actually in the intermission between the two sets that the Quarrymen did that history was made. A lad called Paul McCartney turned up to show him what he could do on the guitar. He was left-handed, so he played it upside down, and he played 20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran, and he knew all the words, but I'm sure he didn't know what the words were about. He was only 12 at the time. Not bad going. Wish some of my students could play that. Another piece of Paul McCartney related trivia here at St Peter's Church is a gravestone dedicated to Eleanor Rigby. As we know, Paul McCartney penned a song called Eleanor Rigby. It was on the album Revolver, and it was released as a single, a double A-side with Yellow Submarine. You might think that the gravestone is what inspired the song, but apparently not. According to Paul, it was actually called Miss Daisy Hawkins to start off with. Miss Daisy Hawkins picks up the... you know how it goes. It's actually how we write songs. That's how I write songs anyway. You just say a load of rubbish until something sticks. Lest we forget that Yesterday by the Beatles was Scrambled Eggs. Scrambled eggs. And then it became Yesterday. Much better. Eventually, Miss Daisy Hawkins became Eleanor Rigby. That was thought to be because of Eleanor Bron from the film Help by the Beatles, and the Rigby bit came from a shop in Bristol. There's another gravestone here to an Eleanor Glover. That would have been a different song, wouldn't it? Eleanor Glover picks up the rice. No, it goes, don't you? It was all just a massive coincidence, but there's something around the corner that isn't a coincidence. It was definitely named as a Beatles song, just pluralised. It was written by John Lennon, and it was the next single after Eleanor Rigby. Let's bimble.
Big plans are easiest to make. Aim for the stars, it's yours, just wait. You do your best along the way. But it's those arms that told me I don't care if it's yours or mine. Without you, it's just a waste of time.
Let me take you down, 'cause we're bimbling to Strawberry Field, sans plural. Strawberry Fields Forever was released in 1967, and it was a double A-side with Penny Lane, which is another location here in Liverpool, for a different bimble. I think I'll call that Another Beatles Bimble. The song was inspired by this, Strawberry Field. It used to be a children's home operated by the Salvation Army. That was from 1936 right up until 2005. John Lennon used to come and play in the gardens here when he was a nipper. And apparently, when they had open days and fetes, he used to mither his Aunt Mimi to come here so he could watch the brass band. They still have a bandstand here, but I don't think it's the original one. It's in the shape of a snare drum in a sort of Sergeant Pepper style. It's very impressive. Did you know that in the year 2000, a couple of fellas stole the iconic gates from outside of Strawberry Field and sold them to a scrap man? And when the police came saying, they're the gates from Strawberry Field, he had to give them back. They didn't reinstall them outside, they installed them inside the garden, and the ones outside are replicas. But the gate posts are the original Strawberry Field gate posts, the ones that John Lennon would have seen when he was climbing over the wall to get in the gardens. It's a very peaceful, tranquil place to come and have a visit. Cost me £10 and 8p to come in here today, but well worth it to see the original gates and the new bandstand. It's also worth it because they have an exhibition inside, and inside is the piano that John Lennon wrote Imagine on. That's in there, in a glass case. It's a bit of a shame really, isn't it? But is there anything else Beatles related around here? Perhaps a real park that we could go and play in? Let's Bimble.
Inspirations need a heart to bring you round. Could be yours. Big aspirations need a heart to hold you down. Though some get lost along the way, as sure as night designed the day. As long as I'm allowed to say, it's my heart that told me I don't care, you just disagree. Without you it wasn't meant to be. You showed me from the start, such inspirations need a heart to bring you round. It could be yours, big aspirations.
I'm currently sat on a nice picnic bench in CER Stone Park, trying to get away from everyone. It's very busy. It's Bank Holiday Monday as I'm filming this. CER Stone Park is named after some Calder stones, a Neolithic dolmen. A dolmen is a place where they would have buried someone very important many thousands of years ago. The Calder stones used to be in a conservatory just off the cycle path, but I think they've been moved into Calder Stone House. They've been arranged in a sort of parallel line, which apparently is how they should have been in the first place. It was thought that they were arranged like a sort of Stonehenge, but then this clever bloke came along called W.A. Herdman, and he said it was a dolmen. And guess what? They're made out of Walton sandstone, so they've been using the sandstone from Walton for at least 5,000 years. But there's something else quite old here in CER Stone Park. The Allerton Oak. It's 1,000 years old. When that was just a sapling, William the Conqueror would have been coming over here and doing the Doomsday Book of 1086. It's held up by some metal struts, but not because it's 1,000 years old, but because of something that happened in Birkenhead in 1864. A ship called the Lottie Lee was delivering 11 tons of gunpowder, and someone accidentally knocked over an oil lamp, and kaboom! The force was felt 3 miles away here in CER Stone Park, and the Allerton Oak was split in two. But what has this got to do with the Beatles? Well, if you look at the back of your latest Beatles release, perhaps that new single, Now and Then. I say new, it's very old, but only just been released. The Fab Four have named their production company CER Stone, after the park. And it doesn't stop there. There's a playground for the kids, and there's a lot of kids out today. And that's the Linda McCartney playground, dedicated to her after she died of cancer. Paul McCartney opened it. As well as that, this is where John Lennon would have hung around with his naughty mates, wouldn't he? But where did he live? Let's Bimble.
Big aspirations need a heart to hold you, heart to hold you. I don't care, you can say what you like. I'm a peace-loving person, but I know I'm right. It's as easy as right from wrong. I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I wrote this song. You showed me from the start, such inspirations need a heart to bring you round. It could be
think I picked the wrong week to come to John Lennon's childhood home at 251 Menlove Avenue. Plenty of tours going on, not least the Magical Mystery Tour, who are currently watching me do this piece to camera. John Lennon moved in here in July of 1946, and he lived here with his Aunt Mimi. John's mum Julia had split up with John's dad, Alfred, and Mimi didn't want John to live with Julia and a new boyfriend. John lived here until he was 22, and 2 years after he left, Mimi left, and I'm guessing she moved into a big posh house bought by John. This is the house where John Lennon would have learnt how to play the guitar, a guitar that Aunt Mimi bought for him, guaranteed never to crack, a Galatone champion, an awful guitar, with the prices elevated now because of the association with John Lennon. It's the guitar he's playing in that famous picture at the Walton Village Fete. You would imagine this house would be full of nice memories of growing up with Aunt Mimi and his Uncle George, but unfortunately his mum was run down 30 metres away from the house on Menlove Avenue itself. She was going home just after she'd visited John. That was in 1958 when John was 17. If you think the house looks familiar, you must be an Oasis fan, because in 1994 Oasis used a picture of this house for the front cover of Live Forever. It was a picture took by Brian Cannon of Microdot. He did all of the classic Oasis front covers right up until Be Here Now. But are there any more Beatles that live around here? Well, yes, but we'll have to save them for another Beatles Bimble.